Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Hannah, Digital Marketing and Events Specialist here at FlowForma, and I'm going to be your host for today. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few tips for participating in today's webinar. So this webinar is being recorded, and if you need any assistance during the webinar, you can email info@flowforma.com. Your lines are muted, but we want to keep this as interactive as possible. So you should have a chat box and a question box as well. And you'll be able to participate throughout the webinar through that. And we'll also have a poll and a survey at the end. So we're going to take a quick look at our agenda. We'll start off with our welcomes to our speakers, a quick summary about FlowForma and why we're here, along with a very exciting live demo. And then we'll move on to our mini case studies on our customers. And we'll look at migration patterns and timelines. And lastly, we'll finish off with a live Q&A with our senior solutions consultant. So let's meet our speakers. Today we're joined by Robbie and Neve. Neve is head of marketing at FlowForma and is passionate about helping organizations understand how automation can drive better outcomes and continuous improvement. Hi Neve, welcome.
Hello. Thanks, Hannah.
And then we have Robbie, our senior solutions consultant at FlowForma, helping organizations understand how modern AI-powered automation platforms transform processes, improve efficiency, and support their digital transformation goals. So I'm going to pass you over to Neve, but if you need any assistance during the webinar, feel free to pop a message in the chat and I'll get right back to you. Okay, best of luck.
Thanks, Hannah. And thank you to everyone who's registered for today's webinar. So it seems like a very popular topic right now that organizations are either A, looking to move away from a legacy platform, or you are looking to introduce a modern platform, maybe alongside what you already have, or you're trying to fill some gaps in your system. So we're delighted to be here today to assist you in evaluating. So I guess I'd like to give a little bit of context to today's webinar in terms of who FlowForma are, because I've seen from the registration list, Robbie, there's some people here on the webinar who we've been chatting to recently, and then there's others that we haven't spoken with before. So just want to share a little bit about us as a company very quickly. So for anyone on the call who hasn't met us before, FlowForma is a software company headquartered in Dublin. We've offices in the US and the UK, and our products are used by over 300,000 users globally, varying across different sectors. So very predominantly used in public sector, public admin, manufacturing, healthcare, construction. So very varied users there. And for context, I guess FlowForma were first to market with a no-code workflow automation tool. So from day one, we've been passionate about empowering the business user alongside IT to digitalize at speed. And the last couple of years have been very exciting with the rollout of AI. So we have been basically transforming our platform with AI features to help organizations digitalize faster than ever before. So for everyone on the call today, there's never been a better time, I guess, to evaluate platforms, and it's very exciting. So that's a little bit about us as a company. And more importantly, I guess we're going to move on now to talk about why there's been such an interest in the webinar today, and why and how Robbie and I are here to help. So just wanted to touch on the challenges that people on the call are probably having, and just ground ourselves in those for a minute. I guess I'm hearing at events frustration that organizations are having, and Robbie, I know you're talking to organizations on a daily basis about moving off legacy systems, and we can definitely hear the pain and frustration that companies have about the shift away to something modern. And I guess, you know, what we have here on screen are pain points and challenges that the community are telling us they're facing with their legacy systems that might be in place 10, 15 years at this stage. And I guess a lot of work has been invested on those platforms, but they just don't work for the way organizations need to work anymore. I guess one challenge I just wanted to raise that we've been hearing a lot about, and Robbie, is probably the first thing people say to us when they look for a trial or demo of FlowForma. It's the pain that they're having in terms of like the cost associated with their legacy platform. We have had a lot of people come to us recently who've been kind of using a DPA leader legacy platform, and they're now, that platform is now end of life. Their licensing, their bills are doubling. And in some cases, Robbie, I know you were chatting to someone recently and their bill had quadrupled from what they were paying the previous year. So that's a
Yeah.
massive frustration to any company, and the ROI that they are getting, that's kind of gone by, a bill that's 4 times what it was in 2025. And I guess on the licensing side as well, I think people are struggling with consumption pricing that has kind of come in on some of those legacy tools as well, which makes it very hard for the IT manager to predict budget costs. So I guess that's the main pain point that's standing out for me, Robbie. But do you want to share a little bit about kind of the lack of innovation and the pain that you've been hearing customers have around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cost is definitely the starting point for a lot of organizations, but once you get into the detail, the bigger issue is often confidence in the platform. So a lot of teams I speak with feel they're investing in systems that simply have not evolved. One customer told me recently, as you said, they've not seen any meaningful innovation in their workflow platform for over 7 years.
Wow.
And that creates a knock-on effect then. So IT teams end up spending more time maintaining aging workflow than delivering new value back to the business. So small changes become quite risky, processes become fragile, and over time workarounds start to build up everywhere. So yeah, the cost and budgeting are major drivers, but the deeper concern is that organizations do not want to migrate from one limiting platform into another. They want a modern system that is easier to maintain, easier to change, and has a clear roadmap for the future. And that's where FlowForma becomes attractive. So it gives a way to move from that legacy system burden into a platform that is no code, AI enabled, and easier to govern. And it's built to keep moving, keep improving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so these are kind of big points that, we're hearing, especially around, I guess, Nintex on-premise users, InfoPath users who hopefully have migrated at this stage, because it's definitely completely end of life at the end of
Yeah.
next week. Um, okay, so I guess they're the challenges that people are having. So if we just move on to the next slide, I guess, Robbie, people, are in a painful position. They have to replace, but I guess our advice to them is, let's see this as an opportunity. So, we don't want to see people just moving from one system to another that's kind of like a look-alike, I guess. What we're helping organizations do is let's take this as an opportunity to improve how you do process. And let's do that by moving you from a legacy system to a modern workflow platform. And I guess, Robbie, when we're talking to prospects in our community, what they want as a modern platform is, like, obviously it's an AI powered platform that they're after. So, they're looking for a platform that's all in one, something with their forms, their workflow, their AI, their insights, that they're living in one system. And they want AI, I guess, in two ways. And Robbie, I know you're going to share this more in the demonstration, but for people on the call today who are thinking about how can they utilize AI more, I guess, what we're seeing people want with modern platforms is AI to deploy processes much
Yeah.
faster, which Robbie is going to show in his demo, and plus AI that will support in the execution of processes, so completing steps, validating data, removing errors. And I guess, we're not saying, the future of automation definitely isn't all automated. It's definitely human in the loop, humans making decisions, and AI is supporting with that process. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about modern systems that are AI powered. And I guess like one other piece, Robbie, that I just want to throw in here for people considering platforms is, speed is a great evaluation point for new platforms, but also, I guess, and we have this, and I don't think we're going to cover it on today's session, but I think governance is really important as well. So, organizations looking to move to modern system, empowering citizen developers, utilizing AI, please make sure when you're looking at platforms that they have a governance module that's going to help IT leaders govern how the platform's been used and how AI is being used. So that's what we mean by a modern platform, which we will be showcasing. So yeah, there's never been a better time to evaluate, and I think definitely use it as a opportunity to improve, and we'll touch on how some of our customers done that later in this webinar. Okay, if we move on from that point, oh yes, Robbie, so like you're talking to people who are evaluating vendors every day,
Yep.
and let's face it, they're probably looking at 3 to 5 different vendors. What is it that people have on their checklist when they come to you?
Yeah, so when organizations start looking at a new platform, the checklist is usually very consistent. They're not just looking for another form builder. They want something that helps them move quickly, reduces reliance on IT, and gives the business more control without creating risk. The first thing we hear is time to value. So if you're replacing a legacy system, you don't want a long rebuild project. You want to get your first processes live quickly, prove value, and then expand from there. The second piece that I encounter is no-code design. So business teams know their processes best, but they have often had to rely then on developers or technical teams to make those changes to processes when they need to be updated. FlowForma gives process owners the ability to build and adapt workflows themselves with the right governance around it. So AI is becoming a big part of the buying decision, as you mentioned, but AI not just for the sake of it, but practical AI. So being able to generate processes from prompts, screenshots, diagrams, or existing documentation can take a lot of effort out of the migration, as you're about to see now in my demonstration in a few moments. The platform still needs to handle real business processes, approvals, tasks, rules, escalations, document generation, audit trails, and more complex routing. Visibility is another key point. So customers want dashboards to show where the work is, who owns it, what is overdue, and where the bottlenecks are forming. And finally, it has to connect into the wider business landscape. So whether that's Microsoft 365, SharePoint, API connection ability, databases, ERP systems, or even reporting tools. So this all is really why organizations choose FlowForma. It's fast deployment. It's 100% no code. Ownership, practical AI. It's a powerful workflow engine. Real-time visibility integration has that governance element that you touched on. It's very important. And a platform then that works for both business users and IT.
Perfect, yeah. And we have a buyer's guide for anyone who is evaluating platforms. So I think you'll find that in the guide section. Okay, thanks for that, Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, this is what everyone is waiting for, to have a little demonstration of the product. So Robbie, if we move on to our next slide, you might talk our audience through the platform at a high level, and then I know you'll then showcase it.
Yeah, exactly. So the slide that's on screen now gives a broader view of how FlowForma positions itself operationally within the organization. At the top, you can see the different types of participants that interact with enterprise processes today. That can include employees, managers, customers, suppliers, compliance teams, operational teams, or even external stakeholders with our Engage module. Those interactions feed into the FlowForma platform, which acts then as an orchestration layer across the process lifecycle. So at its core, the platform are primarily operational capabilities around forms, workflow orchestration, reporting, and insights. And on top of that then sits the AI automation layer, where Copilot, AI agents, and AI assistants can support process design, operational automation, validation, document handling, and user guidance. Underneath that then sits the enterprise integration layer, allowing workflows to connect into Microsoft 365. You can integrate and utilize API connections, databases, ERP systems, and the wider enterprise platform then. So on the left-hand side then, you can see the types of operational inputs the platform can work with. that can include forms, process diagrams, documents, operational data, and other structured and unstructured inputs entering into the workflow. So you're going to see that in a few moments. We're going to take what would be a legacy system and kind of design a prompt around it as to what I want out of the system. Ultimately, then the goal is a governed operational outcome. So governed operational outcomes there on your right-hand side around automated workflows, improved visibility, operational consistency, reporting, auditability, and scalable process orchestration then across the organization.
Perfect. So I guess for everyone on the call, this is what we mean by an all-in-one solution. So you've everything in one platform, and it's AI powered. And I guess, Robbie, there might be some people on the call who, aren't ready to use AI, or maybe in their sector they're not allowed to use AI right now. So it's definitely you can turn it on, you can turn it off, as an organization.
Yeah. There's even the ability to bring your own AI in terms of if you have that actual organizational LLM. Yeah,
Yes.
there's multiple options. Yeah.
Great point. Perfect. Okay. Well then, I think Robbie, if you are ready to screen share, we'll hand over to you to do that. And maybe what we'll do is we will knock off our cameras so we have more equity on the screen.
Yep. Okay. So I'm just sharing my screen and knock my
Perfect.
camera
Yeah.
off there.
Can
All
see
good
that
here.
now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I just want to talk to you a little bit of context as to what you're going to see over the next few moments. So one of the reasons workflow migration can feel daunting is the perceived time and effort that will be involved in that migration. You may already have processes running in tools like Nintex, InfoPath, KissFlow, or other legacy platforms. But the big question is often how much work is going to be involved to take them and rebuild them in the new system, validate them, and get people live again. What I want to show here is how FlowForma makes that much easier. So that's the key point that I'm going to prove to you. It's your migration will be painless. Instead of treating migration as a manual rebuild from a blank canvas, we can use process material you already have. So it could be an old form, a screenshot, as you can see on your screen now. I'm going to be focusing this around the purchase requisition. It could be a process map, an SOP, or a document describing how that process works. So in this example, I'm going to use that process requisition and spend approval form. It's a typical legacy workflow form with request details, supplier information, item lines, financial details, business justification, and supporting documents. So rather than manually recreating every field and every step, I can upload the screenshot into FlowForma's Copilot and give a simple instruction. And that's what you're about to see now in a few moments. The prompt that I'm about to use, it's intentionally light. I'm not trying to define every field, rule, condition, and exception up front. I'm giving Copilot the objective and core stages. So the employee submission, manager review, procurement review, and financial approval. And then that gives us a first version of the process very quickly. And then what you'll see then is Copilot has created an initial structure. It can continue to work with it then from then on. For example, I can ask it to add an additional step then to feedback for senior approval where the spend limit is, say, over $5,000 or euros or whatever the currency may be. So this becomes much more interactive. Copilot gets the first draft in place, and then I can refine it, add business rules, adjust approval logic, and improve the form and shape the process around how organizational processes actually work. And that's the important migration point that I want to convey on this example then. With FlowForma, you're not looking at a long, painful rebuild where everything has to be created manually from scratch. You can take artifacts you already have, generate a working starting point quickly, and then improve the process as part of that migration. So rather than just replacing a legacy platform, FlowForma gives you a faster and easier way to modernize the process at the same time. So what I'm going to do is just live here. I'm going to take this purchase requisition spend approval, and I'm going to feed it into FlowForma's Copilot along with that prompt. So on your screen now, you can see in FlowForma, I'm starting from scratch. I'm going to click to create a new process flow. And I'm simply just going to give the process a title. So we'll call it purchase requisition. So purchase rec, and I click OK then, and I'm into my single build interface now. And I'm going to select into Copilot. And what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm just going to, just need to go back here to my demo environment. I'll start that again. Okay, purchase rec. Click OK. Okay, so I'm going to select into Copilot, and like I said, I'm going to use two artifacts, kind of a blend. So your situation will be you're coming from your legacy system, you want to migrate to FlowForma. You can take a screenshot of that existing system and upload it into Copilot, but I'm going to supplement that with an existing prompt that I've designed. So I'm just going to upload that purchase requisition form, and I'll share my screen, and I'll show you the prompt that I've pre-designed. So it will be to create a purchase requisition and spend approval process. The process should allow employees to submit purchase requests for goods, services, software, equipment, and supplier costs. And then I'm just giving further information about what I need from that process then. So the process should capture request details, supplier information, line items, estimated cost, business justification, and supporting quotes. And then I'm telling it the stages and the steps in the process that I need. So the process should include the following steps. So right the way through from the initial request, employee submits purchase request, line manager review, procurement review, and then finance approval. So the key thing to remember here is the migration is quite easy. I've taken an existing screenshot of my process, given a light prompt around what the process is, and you can see then FlowForma's Copilot is giving me the feedback. So you want a structured process requisition and spend approval workflow for employees. I'll set up 4 clear steps from employee submission through to line manager, procurement, and finance review. Each step will capture request details, supplier data, line items, costs, justification, and support and quotes. And then I'll include an item table and key validation so approvals are well informed and auditable. So FlowForma's Copilot now is doing all the work. And as you're about to see now in a few moments, because we're a SharePoint application, you'll see all the data points that you'd expect to see. So my first step is fully designed out there. You can see from employee submission, every data point that I would possibly need around options, cost center, validation codes manager, person or group questions. It's designing all of those steps automatically for me in the background. And the next thing that I want to show you is the ability to refine and interact with FlowForma's Copilot. So I've deliberately left out a step. So in a real life example, you can continue to work with FlowForma's Copilot to refine that process further. And rather than watch me type out this sentence, I'm just going to, for handiness sake, copy and paste. And I'm going to ask it to add a 5th step for senior approval when the total purchase amount is over 5,000. So you can see right the way through here, it's designed the first step. It flows then through from submission into line manager review. It captures the date, time, through enter ID, who the manager is, options for approve, reject, procurement review, and then finance approval. But the process doesn't end there. So with feedback then, I can ask it to add a 5th step for senior approval when the total purchase amount is over 5,000. So just to illustrate to you through natural language commands that you can actually give feedback, refinements, ask it to remove things, add data points, add additional steps. So the key thing that I want to illustrate is viewing it through the lens of how your migration is going to work. You can take screenshots of your existing legacy systems, give a description of the process, and this is essentially how you'll be developing and migrating your processes in FlowForma. Really quick, just to save time. What I'm going to do now is you can see it's bolted on that 5th step. I'm going to really quickly click build, and you can see live in front of you there today how quickly I've taken a process from a legacy system, given it a description, and there you have it. Our process is fully built on the left-hand side, or sorry, the right-hand side here, and we can click through either and all of the steps in the process. Just for illustrative purposes then, I'll flick into the Flow Designer here, the traditional designer, and I'll just show you how you work with no-code logic. So once you have that kind of scaffold and blueprint of your process already in place from the screenshot and that prompt, we can do things like, well, the senior approval only comes into action when the value is over 5,000. So let's hide that step by default. And then we can look for a question here for the total amount. And let's see if we can trigger it off that then. So cost amount, cost center, currency, VAT amount, and then quotes, confirm. Let's introduce a new question then. So we can say, just say total amount. So click into the step here and say total requested. And we can make that a number question. And I'll just click save on this then, and we can use that then as the trigger point for our logic. So I select onto this question, and what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add a business rule then. So it's a hide show step rule, and we're simply going to input conditional logic then into that. So when this question here on step 1, which is that total cost or total requested, and you're simply saying when it's greater than 5,000, what you want to have happen is you want that step then to be shown. So senior approval you want it to be shown. I click OK there. I'm just going to confirm my question type here is a number. Yep. And click Save. And really quickly then, what you can do in FlowForma when you're building your processes is create a test form from any point in the process. So it's a really nice build experience. We can go test out that logic. You can see I have what is a 4-step process, but here in the total requested, if we exceed 5,000, we have then a 5-step process. The senior approval then needs to be kicked in and initiated as part of the process. So you can see in a really short period of time, the amount of development that I've built just from taking a screenshot of my legacy system, giving it a prompt, and it was intentionally light for the demo purposes, just to give a description of the process, the stakeholders and the data points that I want. And you can see, I think in a very, very short period of time, I've gone from a blank canvas to a fully built out process. And from there, then you can refine and implement and utilize FlowForma's depth of functionality to not only migrate the process, but also significantly improve it.
That's really, really powerful, Robbie. And I guess, you don't need to be technical to do this.
No,
like anyone who owns a process can do this, right?
Yeah, that's the great thing, and that's the power of the prompt. That's why I wanted to combine the both of them, because somebody who sits in finance or HR will know more intimately than a technical resource what the business process should entail, who it should involve, and what it needs to achieve. And if you can type that out in plain English, and you can take a screenshot of your existing system or any artifacts that you do have lying around, it could be a flowchart diagram, it could be a paper-based process, PDF, or a screenshot of a system. Well, then you're enabled to get this far in such a short amount of time, and then you can you can be converting and migrating processes at significant speed, as we tend to see with clients who have switched to FlowForma from legacy systems.
Yeah, and I guess this kind of demonstration, Robbie, it's valid for those who are moving from legacy, or if you're on the webinar and you're not in legacy and you have processes that need to be automated, you don't have a workflow tool yet, or you need to add in another one, it's exactly the same process, right? So as long as you have like a diagram or a procedure document or even like a photo of your process,
Yeah, like we've
we've
even seen examples where current clients would have interactive sessions in a boardroom and sketch it out on a whiteboard, take a photograph of it and use that then, and then supplement it with the notes that were taken within that session, and you can see how quickly you can get with those artifacts.
Brilliant. And I know it's come up a few times, Robbie, so people have kind of told us, oh, I have very complex processes in my legacy systems. And they're kind of concerned about how much effort it is to bring them over to a modern tool, and it's actually not that much work. Do you want to touch on that a little?
Yeah, the thing that I find, this would be specifically around Nintex. Any of our existing clients that are listening, you'll recognize this point, is that what I tend to find is that the incumbent clients coming from Nintex tend to overstate the complexity of their processes. There's a little bit of an overlap in terms of terminology. In Nintex, we refer to a process, we refer to it as an automation within a business process. And what would typically be kind of branded as complex in those situations, we tend not to find that complex when converted into FlowForma. It's a lot simpler than clients would have envisioned themselves.
Great, thanks for that, Robbie.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing and hand back here. We go.
Yep. Right. And I guess for the purpose of today's demo, Robbie, you were just showcasing the power of how easy it is to move your existing processes from legacy to modern. So that was like a quick show and tell, but obviously, within our platform as well, you have all your insights, you have your AI agents, and if anyone wants to see them working, you can set up a demo call with us after, because today's session is all about trying to showcase how easy it is to make that transition. There's a lot of interest in that.
We're just kind of highlighting with those artifacts the speed at which you can go from a blank canvas to a scaffolding process that's improvement of where you're coming from.
Yeah, of course. Okay, thanks for that, Robbie. Hopefully that was helpful to everyone on the call. And we won't dwell on this slide for long, because I know we want to get into talking about real world case studies. But these reasons on this slide are why people choose FlowForma when they're in evaluation mode, like lots of people on the call today. And one that I just might touch on there, Robbie, because we haven't spoken about it yet, and it comes up a lot, in our customer base, but our community love how flexible our tool is. And I recently interviewed one of our customers in Hegarty's, the director there, and she said they chose FlowForma because it was the only platform they could find on the market where they didn't have to redesign their process for it to work in an automated fashion in the platform. So, because our workflow engine and our rules engine are so powerful, you can digitalize very complex processes. If you want to keep them exactly the way they are right now, you can replicate them in FlowForma. So that's just one to touch on there. And I guess, Robbie, what we're hearing a lot is just on the kind of no code piece there. We get a huge amount of interest from people who come in, even like, heads of IT who are kind of saying, the demand for automation is so great and we can't achieve this with legacy tools like Nintex on premise, but we also can't achieve it with Power Apps because we don't have enough technical people. So they're kind of coming to us saying, well, I want a no code solution that's user friendly and it's within the Microsoft ecosystem. That's where we fit in very well for them. Okay, so I think we'll now move on to talk through a few kind of mini case studies. So I think that'll be really helpful for people who are in the call to hear how their peers have moved away from legacy systems and have come out the other side and have great success points to share. So I think we just have 3 mini case studies. So yeah, this is one that I love, and Robbie will get you to talk through the success points here. But for people on the call who might be in a very similar position to Sarah, so Sarah works at the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, public admin in the US, 6,000 people. They're across 160 offices. They came to us a few years ago because they were challenged. They'd built a lot in InfoPath and InfoPath was going end of life. They also had a lot of manual processes as well. So kind of a big challenge in a massive organization like that to be proactive and move off an end of life system very quickly. So when Sarah came to us, I guess what was on her shopping list was that she had complex core processes that needed to be digitalized. She wanted a modern platform. She wanted to be able to scale automation. And also as a public body, they needed something that was very kind of budget friendly as well. She wanted an all-in-one platform. And, she had looked at Power Apps and other solutions that were just becoming, too expensive on the consumption side. So Sarah evaluated a few different platforms, chose FlowForma, and has had some great success wins since then. So Robbie, you might kind of share a little bit about what happened after they onboarded FlowForma?
Yeah, so for Utah, moving from InfoPath to FlowForma, it wasn't just a replacement. Their contracts process went from taking months to being approved in as little as 1 to 5 days. They gained full audit visibility, stronger metadata capture, and they had 0 issues in their last audit. They also avoided the cost and complexity of multiple Power Platform add-ons while enabling non-developer admins to be able to manage and improve workflows themselves.
Yes, that's a great kind of success story, and they're still scaling automation there. Obviously, there's thousands of processes at play there, but they're big fans of FlowForma. And I think Sarah says the more they automate, the more the managers love the system and the success they get from it. So yeah, that's a useful story, I'm sure, for people on the call. Because we do have a lot of public admin registrants for this webinar, and also education has been very popular in terms of people signing up. So yeah, a few months ago we interviewed Will, who is the information services manager at Morley. So big college in London, 11,000 students and 600 members of staff. And I think they have an IT team of like 12 people, but only 2 people are digitizing and automating. So similar to the Utah story, Will came to us, InfoPath was going end of life. They also were using Nintex. They couldn't keep up with the demand for automation from the different faculties, and I guess automation was just getting delayed because it wasn't the number one priority on the IT list every day because they're trying to keep all the lights on everything else too. And I think there was a major challenge for them that, they'd very poor visibility of data. I believe there was lots of kind of like errors in what they were submitting through forms, and a lot of kind of validation had to be done afterwards. So they were challenges that the college faced, and they onboarded the FlowForma product. They replaced InfoPath. They then also replaced Nintex, which is a great like consolidation story. Lots of people are trying to consolidate their systems, so they were able to roll two costs into one. And I guess the big thing from Morley is that processes that used to take hours are now taking minutes. And I think another big plus for Will and the team there is that the user experience has improved massively, and that's a user experience across the students who are onboarded into college, signing up to courses, to the staff booking time off, and every other process in between. So really great success story there from Morley College. And I think our last one is very recent kind of customer, Robbie, that you onboarded and supported on Beaufort County. So I know Joanne there, they were Nintex on premise. They were faced with massive bills if they were going to continue on that platform. They weren't able to scale. It was difficult to maintain. And there was kind of governance issues there, I guess, as well. So Robbie, do you want to share a little bit about how far they've got on their success journey and how they're finding the platform?
Yeah, so Beaufort County it's a great example because they wanted more than an Nintex replacement. They wanted their own teams to build, manage, and improve processes without heavy reliance on IT. So after initial training and with support from FlowForma, utilizing Copilot, as you've just seen me in the product demonstration, how fast and easy it is to use, they were migrating their processes at speed. So in their first month, they moved around 20 complex processes across and now plan to scale automation even further across the organization. So yeah, great success story.
Awesome, yeah. And I think like they've lots of processes, like 1,000 people in that organization across multiple offices. So yeah, that is great to see. And it's great to see that, more and more organizations want to empower the business to do digitalization and not be depending on IT. Okay, and obviously we've lots of other success stories there, and for people on the call who are in other sectors, I'm sure we have a story, a peer story we can share with you post webinar. So Robbie, I guess people on the call today might be thinking, right, well, I need to move off my legacy platform. I'm a little bit worried about how much work has to be done, what order everything happens in. So let's move on to our next slide where you can share your recipe for success.
Yeah, so once organizations decide that they need to move away from a legacy platform, the next concern is usually the migration itself. Where do we start? How much effort is involved? Which processes go first? And how do we avoid disruption? All of those usual questions that come up. And this is where FlowForma brings a proven formula for success. It starts with a dedicated migration expert, so you're not left to figure this out alone. We work with you from assessment through to go live, helping you understand what you have today, identify the right priorities, and shape a practical migration plan. Second, then, we enable your team. So the FlowForma training then, utilizing Copilot as well, gives your builders the confidence to replicate and improve legacy processes really quickly. The aim is that simpler workflows can be moved by your own team without turning process into a massive project, essentially. Third, we support the more complex work with migration credits. So 10,000 credits, they're essentially equivalent to 10 days professional services that can be used flexibly across process build, forms, rules, integration, mapping, workflow, sessions, you name it, across anything across the migration needs. So the recipe is quite simple. Your team moves quickly on the straightforward processes, and FlowForma experts help with the heavier or higher priority ones. And finally, we go live in phases. So rather than a risky big bang migration, we move batches of processes over progressively. So that reduces disruption, helps users adopt, and builds momentum internally then with the system. So this is not just a software that you get, and it's good luck. It's very much partnership driven. It's a proven migration approach. So expert guidance, co-pilot enabled training, flexible services support, and phased delivery get you live quickly and safely throughout that migration.
Great. Thanks, Robbie. And I guess, yeah, we know this is a big project for organizations, and we can definitely give you confidence with our platform that's proven to make this easy, plus this technique and rollout strategy. And we've a team here, as Robbie says, to support with that. Okay, thanks for that, Robbie. Yeah, so that webinar flew by. So I guess we're over to any questions that have been coming in, Hannah, from the audience.
Yeah, so I see we do have a few questions already. We're slightly over time, but we're going to take a few anyway.
Yeah.
So let's see what we have. We have one person saying here, we've a mix of Nintex, KissFlow, and a little InfoPath. Do we have to rebuild it fully from scratch? Maybe Robbie, you could take that one.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's the purpose of the demo that I showed there today. So if you do have those artifacts that are already existing in legacy systems, you can take the screenshot of them. If there's even process descriptions or SOPs lying around, you can feed them into FlowForma's Copilot, and very quickly you get a scaffold and a version of that process that you can interact with and refine through natural language commands. And hopefully that was illustrated on the demonstration today. My whole point was to go from a blank canvas to a fully built process using such artifacts in a very short period of time.
And then we have another question here. Also, if anyone hasn't put their questions in yet, feel free to pop them in. If we don't get to answer them now, we will get back to you. But we have another one here about AI. So how is AI changing workflow automation compared to legacy platforms?
Yeah, I think I'll take that, Hannah. I think it's completely transforming the way we work and the way we automate. So I guess there's kind of two sides to it. So on one side, as Robbie showed, AI is, taking us away from that blank canvas and that's starting from scratch with nothing and having to map your process from scratch to being able to prompt or upload diagrams to automate your process really quickly. So that's a massive plus and removes all those blockers people may have had to automation in the past. And then secondly, by being able to deploy FlowForma AI agents into your process, that can improve your quality of your process, improve your data, have AI agents completing steps based off rules that you have created within FlowForma. So yeah, it's helping you digitize way quicker and then ultimately deliver better outcomes to your staff and your customers and suppliers. So it's a massive game changer, really.
And then we have another question here. It says, if you were starting a migration project today, what would you do first? Maybe Robbie could take that. I think you covered a bit of it in the slide, yeah.
Yeah, it's really just about mapping your high priority processes and kind of phasing it accordingly. And from there, you can work with us in terms of consultancy, what happens when it happens. Yeah, I mean, ultimately that is it. Ultimately, you will get there with FlowForma. So what you do first is you reach out to us and we'll map it with you in terms of kind of putting together that phased workshop approach to map everything out. But ultimately, FlowForma will be capable of migrating the process.
And then we have another question that said, what's the biggest mistake organizations make when replacing a workflow platform?
Okay, yeah, I think what I'd say there, Hannah, is don't replace like with like. So I think our advice would be choose a platform that is future proof, that has all the AI features that we've talked about. And I think the whole future of automation is definitely like intelligent orchestration with the humans who know their processes best. So that's what you're you're looking for. So get yourself a system with that and with the governance element on top of that we discussed earlier.
And then we have another question here. How are customers actually using AI in workflow today? Is it practical or is it mostly just hype? Maybe Robbie, you could answer that one.
No, it's absolutely practical. Yeah, it isn't just hype, and I always strive for that. Again, the phrase "the human in the loop" of the process, where you're essentially leveraging AI to be the assistant to the human. So you're saving administrative time, reducing errors in the process, dynamically routing the process accordingly. So yeah, ultimately, this whole thing that AI will do everything with the magic click of a fingers, that's the kind of hype thing. But what FlowForma does is it gives you the ability to embed AI in a process in a practical way and in a guardrailed way. Essentially, that you're not just unleashing AI to the end user. It is embedded in a practical way in the process that can significantly reduce administrative overtime and man hours within a process. So no, it is absolutely being deployed in a practical way with FlowForma.
Yeah, and we'll just take one or two more questions now. So we have someone saying, can modern no-code platforms really handle complex enterprise processes, or are they mainly just for simple approvals?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And Robbie, we still hear that. I think sometimes people don't believe the power of no-code platforms and they think it's just for simple processes. But we've built a very powerful workflow engine, rules engine, like massive enterprise organizations are using our platform to power very complex processes, multiple stakeholders, multiple decision points, data being pulled in and out, integrations with other systems, ISO integration, DORA compliance, like everything like that. So yes, and sometimes people don't believe it until they see it. So Robbie would be open to being challenged by anyone on the call if they have a complex process and they'd like to see it built out in a no-code platform like ours. Robbie would be more than happy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, challenge accepted. So if you think your process is too complex, get in touch with us and we can show it to you being delivered in a POC.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then that's all we're going to be able to answer right now. I see we have gone over 5 minutes already, but I do want to share with everyone and just thank you, of course, for joining us today. But just one last thing before we wrap up. So whether you're planning to replace a legacy platform, add in a new platform, or you're dealing with any of the challenges Robbie and Neve spoke about today, we are here to help. We're doing so by offering a one-to-one consultation with one of our migration experts who have guided more than 100 organizations through successful migrations. This is available at no cost to everyone who attended today's session. So you simply can tick the option in the poll that I'll just launch now, or you can do it in the post-event survey, or if you change your mind, feel free to get in contact with us through email or on our website either. But we will be in touch later this week if you do want to book in. I'll just pop up this poll now so I won't keep you guys any longer.
Yeah, great. And Hannah, while that poll is up there, just see another question that's come in, where someone's asking about, does this support ISO 9001? Yes, totally. Does this support process mapping? Yes, it does. Delivering audit plans. I'm not sure what type of audits they're talking about, but we do have the likes of Grant Thornton that use our system for audits. And then in state of Utah, I think their audits are all done on FlowForma as well. And around the audit piece, where a product is like an audit history trail, which I know our customers find super useful.
Perfect. I'll just leave it up for another second there. Because it is a free consultation and there's no strings attached, so you can just have a look and see what we could do for you. And thanks so much to Robbie and Neve as well for a really exciting webinar and a great demo too. I will end the poll now, and thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And yeah, any questions, just get on to us. We're happy to help. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.